Okay, what's up, you guys? Welcome back. We're into the next unit. This is unit 4, and here we're going to be talking about sales and the whole entire client experience. This is a big one. It's a big topic, and there's so much to talk about. We're going to get into emails, communication, what I do in terms of automation and client relationship portals, things like all this kind of stuff. And so this first section here, we're talking about the sales and client experience overview. This is going to be like a 3-part video probably, and then we'll get into like email communication, just everything else of the business world related to sales, right? So, first things first, when it comes to sales, is you need to know where I'm just going to talk to you guys again, like you guys are my friends, right? I'm not a marketing expert. I never went to school for sales. This is just what worked for me as a photographer. So there are a thousand gurus online who will share with you, a million even, about how you can make money through sales. And I'm not that kind of person. I'm just going to share with you guys what worked for me over the last 15 years as a photographer. So first off, you need to know your leads and you need to know where they're coming from. For me, most of my leads are coming from Google. They're coming from Instagram. And for a second, they were coming through TikTok. I kind of ignored TikTok as a photographer, but it's a huge asset for a lot of people, and I definitely wouldn't sleep on that. Reddit, surprisingly, is a huge lead sort of generator for me. So you need to know where these things are coming from. I will tell you, followers on these social platforms is not the bread and butter. What happens if you are on Instagram and you're dedicating your entire life to Instagram and your account gets hacked? I've seen this multiple times where someone's account gets hacked or it gets banned for some reason and everything's gone and all of their leads are dried up because they put all their eggs in that one basket. I personally wouldn't do that. I would spread it out and I would look at Google, Instagram, and choose one more. And if you had to choose one more, what would you guess? Would it be TikTok? Would it be choose some social media platform, of course? But if I were to choose one more sort of area to focus on leads, definitely relationships. We talked about the importance of that, but having a planner, an event planner who is sending you leads, that one person is worth 5,000 Instagram followers, right? 5,000 Instagram followers might turn into a few leads. One event planner could be consistent work for the rest of your life. And so I would begin really seriously building connections with event planners, and know your percentages, know how much is coming in from where. And you do this by your inquiry form. So on your website, your future client is gonna fill out an inquiry. If they're interested in you, ask them a few questions, and we'll get into forming that later. But one of the questions I ask my clients is, how did you find me? And I give them options. I say Instagram, TikTok, Google, vendor referral, other, right? Something like that. I'm just kind of like trying to make it easy for them to sort of just click a button and move on because they don't want to spend any more than 3 seconds on that, right? So think about that and then think about where you're going next. So now that you have like a vision of where your leads are coming from, what's the next category you want to start building? Maybe add a fourth one and really just start going in on that. And so knowing your lead generation is important when it comes to sales, right? Because this is where we can use the data to begin focusing our efforts. And so the next thing here under the sales and client experience thing is kind of all kind of interconnected, of course, but this is going to be first impressions. What are clients, when they click on your website, what is their first impression? Are you professional? Are you going to be able to answer all their questions? Are you going to be the one holding their hand? Are you going to be able to be the one who's going to care for them through this whole experience of planning a wedding? Or are you a new photographer? That's cool if you are, right? If you're a new photographer and you're marketing towards people who are maybe lower budget or things like that, then great, awesome. You're doing a service and you're telling them the truth and you're being transparent and honest, and that's going to be your client, right? You need to have your ideal client in mind while you're doing all this. And one of the things that I like to do, the exercises, I guess, is to reflect here. If I'm a client looking for a wedding photographer and I go to someone's website, what tells me that I trust that client, that vendor, right? If I go to a photographer's website, I'll tell you sort of what triggers trust in me as a person. Everyone is different. But for me, if you're on page 1 of Google, already I trust you. You're a professional. You do your work. You know what you're doing. Now Page 1 isn't everything, but that's an important sort of like factor for me. Page 2 even, right? Because so many ads and things like that fill up page 1. But if you're on the first 1, 2 pages, 3 maybe of Google, you're building trust. And we'll talk about how to get there. To me, consistency. If I see a clean website with like really well written copy, and it's not just like ChatGPT spit it all out, but it's actually like thoughtful, wording, builds trust. But also too much kind of takes me aback. I like to see clean and consistency. If you could be on page 1 and 2 and have a clean website, to me, that's trust, because you obviously are doing something great, right? You're not trying to spam the website to get on page 1, and it's very clean. Okay, another thing that comes to mind when building trust is when you Google your business, are people seeing your Google My Business profile? And what I mean is this: go to Google and type in your business name, and your business profile should show up. Here's an example of what mine looks like. You can see phone number, hours, but also most importantly is the reviews. When I see this, to me, you're a real person. You're not going to scam me. You care about your customers. And so you're not going to back out on me the day of because you have a cold kind of thing. The reviews are gold. This is what matters the most. Okay, so the final thing I want to talk to you about today, again, this is going to be like a long sort of series on sales and client experience, is the inquiry process. And this one we can spend so much time on, but let me share with you my inquiry process. When you go to my website, you're going to see just a straight up, I'm actually going to go there right now and show you guys what I see here. So we're going to go to my website, and we're just going to see one nice fat picture, and it's going to have simple, my name, and exactly what I do, right? So Big Sur elopement and proposal photographer. And then and it has a nice, great photo of a great, beautiful couple, etc. And then the first thing they're going to see at the top is sort of my menu here. And so when they click on contact, you're going to want to see, the first thing they see is going to be the contact form. And this is connected straight to my HoneyBook. So it's actually generated through HoneyBook, and then I embed it into my Squarespace. So that way, when someone fills this out, immediately an inquiry is, of course, populated through HoneyBook, and they show up on my calendar as a proposed date. I really like that because it helps me as a busy, father and person, juggling a whole bunch of things, to be able to look at my calendar very quickly and say, oh, I'm actually booked that day. I can't help. Sorry. And then send them a bunch of my favorite other photographers. And so what they have is your name, and I make that required. Your fiance's name. So now I just do proposals and elopements right now. If this was a wedding, I would say your name, your fiance's name, and make them both required or something like that, because I want to be able to talk to both of them. What type of event are you planning? And this is going to be a drop-down menu where you're going to have 3 things I offer, right? Weddings, elopements, and proposals. That's it. That's all I do. And then I have their email address that is required, and their phone number that is required. And the reason, I give them a reason for this, right? A lot of people hate putting their phone numbers into inquiry forms because they think that it's going to be like spammed. It's going to be you're going to have to unsubscribe from something later. I give them a reason. I'm telling them, I'm going to text you pin drops because I live in Big Sur. We're not going to have cell service. And so you're going to have to get my instructions on your phone before the day starts. Again, anticipate your client's questions and their needs before they even think they need it. I can't tell you the amount of times where people, I'm thinking of proposals, have come to me and said, wow, I am so shocked at how organized and prepared you are. And that, I think, is a big driver as to how people choose me over other photographers, if I could be honest. Then I have their phone number, and then I give them their date. I don't make this a requirement for proposals because lots of times people are flexible. If this is a wedding, you might want to have a date and say, estimate's okay, because maybe they haven't secured their venue and you're the most important vendor that they're looking for. And then I have my section on how did you hear about Daniel? And I have just options for them, right, to click on. And then tell me more about you, right? And I leave this blank because lots of times I shoot proposals. A lot of times guys are just like busy and they just don't want to share more information, and they just want to hit submit and just secure the best photographer. And so I leave it blank because I'll find out that information on the inquiry phone call. And so that's my inquiry process. It would literally take you 2 minutes to complete this, maybe less, right? And then if they want to know more, they can find out more, right? And then I have more examples of photos and images and reviews on that inquiry page. So we could go in and on and on about inquiry process, but it needs to be easy. You need to show reviews to build that trust. And I think, it should just be organized and beautiful and just simple and straightforward. So anyways, we're going to move on to the next sort of phase of talking about sales and client experience. But if you have any questions specifically about one of these, drop a comment, head over to my TikTok, Instagram, send me an email from my website. And if you want a free photographer Excel sheet that tracks your profit and loss statement, I just add that to my website. So head on over. It's completely free. This is for people who are just getting started 1-2 years in, and they just aren't quite ready to have a bookkeeper like myself. And so you can start tracking your expenses here on your own. It makes it super simple. And so let me know if you have any questions. Again, my name is Daniel. I was a photographer for the last 15 years, and now I'm a bookkeeper for photographers, just spilling the beans, sharing everything I know about starting a photography business in 2026.